Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Rich Politics. I'm so glad you've taken the time to tune in tonight. It's a Friday night. That means Rich Politics is live. That's right. And my guest is someone who I admire very, very much. I'm going to introduce her in a few moments. But before I do, you can see it on screen there, can't you? But before I do, don't forget, you know the drill. Follow us on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'd really, really appreciate it. Well, getting down to the brass tacks tonight, then, what are we talking about? Tonight, we are discussing Abolish the Welsh Assembly Party. Well, not the party per se, but those involved in it. Many of you know that I am a member of Abolish. I agree with it. I think devolution has been a disaster for Wales, in the words of our Prime Minister, and many others feel the same as well, according to most recent polls. In fact, polling much higher than those who are calling for Welsh independence. You know, that pipe dream that Adam Price keeps going on about. But anyway, back to my guest tonight. Claire Mills is a councillor, and she is joining me tonight. We're going to talk about you, really, Claire. And then obviously we'll talk about Abolish Welsh Assembly Party's plans and what's been happening, because they're exciting times for the party. I know, because we get the inside track. But firstly, Claire, tell us about your work as a councillor and why you got involved in politics.
Oh, Rich, can I just say, first of all, thank you so much for having me on Rich Politics tonight. I'm really chuffed to be here. Basically, my life as a county councillor varies day by day. It's never the same one day as it was the day before. I could have a phone call at 10 o'clock in the morning from a concerned resident who hasn't had their waste and recycling collected. And then later on that evening, I could be dealing with a really important social services issue. So it's completely varied. And I wouldn't change it for the world. I love working with the people, my residents in my ward, and I've made some really good friends through being a councillor.
Because obviously, we know about councillors. We've all got them in different wards and different constituencies. And I've always been interested to know the kind of work that you do. Because I know how hard you work, right? I've seen your diary sometimes. I know, from day one, you've just been, you're a hard-working woman, I know. But it's nice to get an insight, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realise what councillors do behind the scenes. We have the regular full council meetings that we attend. We have regular, at the moment, weekly member development sessions around highways, education, social services. So we're kept briefed and obviously trained in those areas. But people don't see the human side of it, if you like, on the ground. During COVID, I've been busier than ever. I was volunteering for my residents in my ward, and indeed a little further beyond, collecting prescriptions, collecting food shops, and also just welfare calls, because there are a lot of lonely people out there in the ward that just really need a chat, and you need to check in on them and make sure everything's okay. And then, of course, we've had this cold bout, so I've been dealing with a lot of issues around the roads, gritting, social care. We had an elderly lady whose carers couldn't get to her, so I was helping the family with that. There's just so much behind it. Yeah, and the phone's always on. You can't ever switch off and just have a quiet few hours, because you need to be there for the people in your ward. Yeah. Well,
quite clearly, it's got to be something you're passionate about more than it's not just a job, is it? Let's be honest, because a lot of people, they have a full-time job and they do the councillor side of it. And I was wondering, though, because obviously with being a councillor comes the political arena as well, doesn't it? It's about politics at the end of the day. And I wonder, at what age and what stage, I'm not asking you to tell me your age now, by the way, but, what got you into politics? What was it for you that really got you into it?
To start off with, it's always been a part of my life growing up. My mother was very political, and my grandmother, lifelong Tory voters. So I've always, paid attention, I suppose, to what was happening. I started working with the Brecon and Ramseyshire Tories in 2015, the general election, delivering leaflets, knocking on doors. And that really was my foot through the door, if you like. That's how it all started. And I'm a qualified teacher, and I taught primary school for 3 years. And then I went on to teach disengaged, disaffected young people that had been excluded from high school, one-to-one. And then following that, I was in the youth service for 15 years as a curriculum development worker. And I was in charge of the Duke of Edinburgh's award for Powys. And I loved working with those young people. my career path took a different turn, and I never dreamt, when I in Carmarthen, I graduated in Carmarthen, that I would end up in a political career. It just wasn't, it wasn't on my radar. But that's the way it's happened. And after the general election, I was very lucky to be offered a job as a senior caseworker for a member of parliament.
Yeah.
And this was when I really first started to see firsthand, I should say, actually how politics really does affect everything in everyday life. I worked with a lot of families who had issues with the Welsh Government. Powys County Council, there were lots of casework around that. And that's what kind of drove me to push it a little bit further. I thought, actually, I can help these people now, but to make a real difference, I needed to be on the ground. I needed to be out there to do, what I could.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to interrupt. Yeah, that is really. I mean, one of the reasons why I got involved with politics is because I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. I'm sure that is how a lot of people start. Those who have an ambition to get into politics as a career, I think they're short-sighted, and it's never been my position. I know, because I know you. I know that your passion is about helping people in your community, and you have been doing it for so long, and it was a natural progression. And you realize, like many people do, that to make real change, that you have to get involved in politics. As messy as it is sometimes, you've got to get involved in it. I mean, just on that then, Claire, are there any challenges you face being a woman in politics? Because, of course, with the Abolish Welsh Assembly Party, for example, that, we've got members are growing every day. The party is growing in strength. Our online media campaign is strong, over 500,000 views every month. I mean, it's huge. And we're reaching people. And we got applications coming in to stand for us in the elections in May, on May the 6th. But it's been very difficult to get women to come and stand for us. Now, you are one of the exceptions. Why do you think that is, Claire?
First of all, I'd just like to point out that we've got a very strong membership base that has grown over nearly 12 months now, and we've got a wide range of supporters, a big list of supporters that are willing to come out and help us if we can ever actually get out on the ground. And a lot of those are females. So I've got to stress there are a number of females involved with the party. It's just perhaps that they're not confident enough to come over because of the perception of what's involved. Social media plays a huge part. We get abuse, as you know, Rich. We're all open to it. Sometimes, perhaps, for many females, they're worried. They're ladies. They're worried about how they can handle that. You've got to have a thick skin, and I must admit, mine's not quite that thick, but it's improving. You've got to have thick skin, and a lot of it, people are frightened off the abuse that we get from some of the Welsh nationalists, the Yes Cymru members. It's horrific. Some of a couple of messages I've had sent to me, I would never in a million years dream of reading out on your show tonight, and it puts a lot of people off. And that's a barrier. We're all fighting for what we individually believe in. And I think respect is key. But unfortunately, a lot of these groups don't agree with us, and they throw it at us tenfold.
Yeah, well, I say that, Claire, that online abuse, I mean, I've experienced it myself, of course.
Yeah,
and I work on the impression that if you're into politics, you've got to be hated to be liked. So it comes with the territory, and we know that. But I've spoken to a number of people who, not just women, but men as well, who would stand for a party like ours, but are afraid of the online abuse that they would receive and the kind of vitriol that you get from a lot of the Welsh nationalists. And you mentioned the pressure group, Yes Cymru, and groups such as that and others as well. I mean, it shouldn't be the case, though, should it? I mean, we live in a democratic society, and people should be allowed to stand up for what they believe in without being abused online. I mean, I've been called, all kinds of wonderful and colourful things like yourself. And so I take my hat off to you because, we'll come to it in a moment, why you left the Welsh Conservative Party, but you were a Conservative councillor. And that was it's not a small step. I know that you've been on a couple of mainstream media programs to talk about that when you first joined the Welsh Assembly Party. But that's a big thing, isn't it? Because it's a big step to take, because criticism that'll come from your own party, the Welsh Conservatives, and then you've got the Welsh Nat. So you've had to deal with a whole range of, shall I say, criticism and abuse, haven't you?
it's been interesting, but can I just go back one step?
Yeah.
I think if you've got the passion for change and you really think that something's worth fighting for, you do it. A lot of people may not feel the same, but I felt so strongly about my position and about the Welsh Assembly and devolution, and I can't sit on my hands anymore. And just don't forget, I'm not a career politician, as we've talked about before. I didn't know exactly what I was jumping into in relation to the hate online, but I do it because I really genuinely believe in it, as do you, as does our leader and our rest of our colleagues and members and friends. So it was just a decision that I made, and I haven't looked back since.
Yeah, but the real challenge, isn't it? But at the same time, there's a challenge worth taking, as you've pointed out.
Definitely.
And we've got a great team. We're a great bunch of people, by the way. So if you're ever thinking of joining us and standing for us, you really should, because it's worth it in the end. We may as well talk a little about devolution, because I know I bang on a lot about it on this program and with different guests on different subjects, but I can't help mentioning the failure of devolution. And it's been catastrophic for the people of Wales by every measurement. I mean, even in your own region there, Claire, where you are and where you'll be standing, I mean, do you find that the Welsh Government have continually failed the people?
Absolutely. And the COVID pandemic has highlighted this to a lot of people that I talk to. There were people who wouldn't necessarily, I say, be against me when I was a Tory councillor, but have now actually opened up and said, we're right behind you. We didn't realise, people didn't realise what the Welsh Government were doing. A lot of people didn't realise what was actually devolved. This has highlighted it, and highlighted a lot of the failings over the previous, 21 years. The state of our education system, for example, we're so far behind England, it's ridiculous. And children and young people and education is a topic obviously very close to my heart. You see academies over in England absolutely thriving, and then you've got schools here that with deficit budgets that are struggling to even afford textbooks. That's an example. The NHS, again, Wales is so far behind England. The economy, when you think about it, £64 million per year just to fund, the running costs of the Welsh Assembly, and then you've got another 100 million on top of that to cover the Welsh Government's costs and salaries, etc. If that money was directed straight to local authorities, they could put it to the frontline services that they know really need that money. Social services, again, education. I keep harping on about it. Adult social care. They're just failing us left, right, and centre, and wasting so much money on these pet projects, and the M4 Relief Road, Cardiff Airport. And I've noticed a lot of people in Mid and West Wales, and indeed North Wales, because obviously the border, have contacted us, and the number of people that say that anything south of the anything north of the Cardiff Bay bubble and the Senate, Swansea, we've forgotten about. What have the Welsh Government actually done for the people of whole of Wales, but Mid and West and North specifically? People are disheartened. They've lost all respect really for the politicians down in the Senate.
Well, a lot of the North Walians that I've spoken to over the years, I've said that to me. They feel cut off from the whole kind of, Cardiff-centric kind of Bay bubble, if you like, and they don't feel that they're represented as much as they should be. And so there is that, of course. And you mentioned the waste of devolution when you consider £65 million and the running costs and the salaries, big fat salaries of these politicians. I find it extraordinary. We have 40 MPs in Westminster. We have 60 MSs or AMs, as they're formerly known, down in Cardiff Bay, and we're paying for two sets of politicians when really, we elect at a general election a member of parliament to represent us in our constituencies, which is why most people turn out for a general election far more than the Welsh elections. It goes to show how important it is to people more than the local elections.
Definitely.
It's because now I think people are waking up to that wastage. One of the great things about the Abolish Welsh Assembly Party's campaign has been to show people, to actually reveal to people what has been going on, because a lot of the electorate, myself included before I got involved in politics, I didn't realise that all these areas were the responsibility of the Welsh Government. I thought it was the guys in Westminster, but clearly now it's not, and people are waking up. And as you say, that money, Claire, for Mid and West and North Wales and down in the valleys here in South Wales as well, we see our town centres, shops boarded up, you know, there's no infrastructure, there's no business, no entrepreneurship. We got kebab shops and nail shops. I'm not against a kebab. I'm partial to one now and again, but not my nails. Or the nails. But, you know,
I'll be there as soon as they open.
Yeah, and I got councillors down here. It's an independent council where I am in Blaenau Gwent, and I speak to them regularly, and they say, look, Rich, we just don't have, well, our budgets are cut year in, year out. Right? It might be different this year because of the pandemic, they've had extra money, but it's as if it's as if Welsh Labour, who are in power, and the Welsh government, they want to keep the people poor, so they keep a welfare state running, so people keep voting them back into power. And that's what we've seen happen here in Wales for the last, 2 decades. And then you've got the other side where people say, well, we need a change of the guard, so we need someone else in power. I am absolutely 110% convinced that that is not the answer.
No, nor me. I agree 100%.
But even if it was, here's my point. Even if it was, this is my point that people don't understand. It's still a waste of money. Yeah. Why are we paying, so someone says, well, Westminster's failing us. And we say well, if you've got 2 governments failing you, why pay for 2 sets of failure? Just pay for one. Just pay for it. Because Westminster doesn't get it right all the time. I know that. I know that's stupid. The sun doesn't shine at the Boris's backside. I get that, right? But
I think it does, doesn't it?
Well, there's some people, yeah. But sometimes people have this idea that we're against democracy. No, not
at all.
No, referendums are part of democracy, and to call for a referendum, if you can call for a referendum on independence, why can't we call for a referendum with abolish on the same ballot box? I mean, it's the same thing, and I think we're moving towards that, and I think people are waking up, Claire, and I think what you're doing up there in Mid-West Wales and the people in North Wales as well, and around Wales actually, with all of our candidates and all of our prospective candidates, I should say, and our team, people are getting the message, Claire, aren't they?
Oh, definitely. We need to stop Wales sleepwalking into independence. The Welsh Government, Welsh Assembly is just a complete unnecessary tier of bureaucracy that we do not need. As you said, Rich, we've got MPs, we've got county councillors, there's town and community councillors. We do not need this complete waste of money. And it's such a drain on our resources and just waste day after day. And this is why I left the Tories, because I felt so passionate.
Yeah, I was going to come to that. So that's my next question I was going to ask you on the interview tonight. So tell us, so why did you leave the Conservative Party and join Abolish? Because that's a big jump in it. Because let's be honest, the Welsh Conservatives are pro-devolution. They pretend to be, but most of their membership are actually against having the Senedd. Yes. But so they're not supportive of that. Why did you leave the Conservatives then?
Well, as I said earlier on, I've always been a Conservative, a unionist. I believe in the union. Working for, I was being elected representative in the county council and working for the Member of Parliament, I saw firsthand how the Welsh Assembly and the Welsh Government were letting down the people of Wales. And I just thought, you know what? I can't sit on my hands any longer. I feel so strongly about this. I'm not, as we've talked about again, I'm not a career politician. I just want to work for the people. I think the Welsh Conservatives need to wake up. They don't seem to realise the majority of their members that are anti-devolution and want to end the Assembly and get those politicians off the gravy train. And I know for a fact there's an issue between the Central Party and local members. And I've had Conservative members call me and say, well done, we'll support you, we'll vote for you on the list, or whatever's happening, wherever you stand, we'll support. But I don't think the politicians actually see that, because they're so concentrated on keeping their jobs and staying in the Assembly. And we've touched on it again before. If you want, the Conservatives are going to say they want to change. Change will sort it all. It won't. It really, really won't. And another issue on the side, I got fed up of trying to be silenced, having instructions, if you like, that I have to vote a certain way with certain issues in the council, and being told that if I didn't, something would happen, or it's not me. I stood for as a county councillor to represent the people of my ward, and I'm not going to put the party before my residents. I stand up for what they want.
Well, and that's what you're elected for, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, and as you've pointed out, I mean, strangely enough, you talk about the Conservative voters and their membership. I've had people who would be considered not within the Senedd itself, but certainly positions within the Conservative Party, whether they be deputy chairmen or others here in Wales, have told me off record, behind the scenes privately, that they would support abolish, and they do support abolish, but they don't make that jump that you have. So in private, they'd support abolish, but publicly they won't. And I think part of that, I was speaking to someone this week actually about it, Claire, is because some of them are thinking about long-term careers with the Tory party, so it's kind of like, you've got to behave yourself and toe the line and all that kind of stuff. And it's a shame really that people will put party before and politics before the people, because politics is about people. I keep saying this all the time. That's why I got involved in the blooming thing, because it's about the people. I know. So anyway, I'll keep knocking on about it, as you know. So yeah, I mean, it's been a big jump for you. And how have you found it? Because of course the campaigning has been difficult for a lot of people because of the lockdown, and we won't talk too much about Drakeford on here tonight. Yes, but it's been difficult. And how have you found the campaign, Claire, so far with Abolish and with the rest of the team really across Wales?
Yeah, do you know what I was going to say, Rich, about the team? They're fantastic. It's so nice to be such part of such an enthusiastic, fresh, people that are all like-minded. We all want the same thing. We've all got one major goal, and we work together to do it. And I urge anybody that is worried or concerned or anxious about either joining us as a member or coming to stand for us elections, because we still need candidates. We're doing really well, but there's still openings out there. Do it. It was the best decision I ever made. It really was. And we work a lot together with social media campaigns. We have regular Zoom meetings. It's such a shame that we can't all, meet up and have dinner and
a few beers. And a few beers. Don't forget that.
Or a glass of wine. But it works. And we're such a diverse range of people. And I think that really helps. We all get on well. Okay, there might be the odd little that we do something wrong, but it's such a fab team. It really is, and I can't emphasize that enough. And
yeah. Go on. I
was just going to say, we had a chance to do a couple of street stalls, book stalls last year, before the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 7th lockdown came in, and it was great. And the support on the street is brilliant. I just cannot wait until, I hope we can actually get out on the doorstep, delivering leaflets, knocking on doors, and talking to the public.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one of the strengths. When we did those street stalls before the lockdown back in the summer, I noticed the enthusiasm. We did one year in Abergavenny, and the enthusiasm for Abolish was extraordinary. The amount of people. In fact, I remember people can't say, I'm a member of the Conservative Party, but I'm not voting for them. I'm voting for Abolish. I had so many people say that to me, and I was like, wow, I mean, obviously I'm standing for what I believe in. This is why I'm standing for Abolish. But I didn't realize the strength of public mood there was as well. And then obviously, like you said, our online campaign, my goodness me, reaching over 500,000 people, and we're seeing all these new members coming in and people applying to stand for us. We've still got room, as Claire's mentioned, if you want to stand for your community for something that's right, then do it. But it was amazing. And it kind of spurs you on, because you realize,
definitely,
this is bigger than us. This is what we're fighting against here is an establishment, is an elite set of politicians that have had safe seats for years and years and years, will never be removed from power. And on the top of that threat, we now have the existential threat of Welsh independence. And that now, I know certainly for me and many others, is one of my biggest concerns, because
scary thought.
Yeah, because the trajectory, I call it, or the direction of travel for devolution is towards independence. You can't get away from it. They want more powers, they want more politicians, and it's never been the answer to have more politicians. When someone's got a problem, we don't go, oh, I got the answer, let's pay more politicians. What a load of baloney. It's absolute rubbish. And I think people are waking up, Claire, and I hope to goodness that you get elected. I think you will. We've got every chance of winning up there in Mid and West Wales and other parts of Wales, because of not just your passion and who you are and what you bring to the table, but because of what the people in Wales are waking up to, Claire, isn't it?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. But yeah, we could talk for hours now about how Welsh independence could fund itself. But what we need to do is sell the Welsh water. That's fine. That'll cover all the 18.4 million that comes over every year from UK government. Just the water solve all the problems. Yeah,
it's a pipe dream, I know. But Claire, listen, now time's nearly up, but I wanted to ask you before I let you go on. Thanks for coming on. Finally, what's your message to the people of Wales ahead of the elections in May?
I think, first of all, I'd like them to have a think about all the other different parties. We've touched on a couple of them already, Rich. So we've got the Conservatives. Okay, they want to keep the Assembly. They just want to change how it's run. We're still going to have the complete drain of resources that we've got now. We've got Labour, and I'm not sure if people know, but a large majority of the Labour supporters are actually pro-independence. So again, it's really not an option for us. We've got Plaid Cymru, and we all know that's all they want is pure independence. We've got the Liberal Democrat. Well, don't need to really
that's singular, that is not plural. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we've got UKIP. Okay, UKIP say that they want to abolish the Assembly, but why have all those other policies? Okay, we've got one policy. We want to abolish the Assembly. Again, I think maybe looking at keeping their own seats perhaps in the Assembly, and really not much else. We've got Reform and Brexit. Obviously, same party, new name. Got to give them credit. They did their job superbly well with Brexit and getting us out of the EU. But to me, they've had their day. They've done their job. Now they've changed to Reform. Again, they just want to reform the Welsh Assembly. They want to keep their seats. They want to keep the establishment. We need to abolish it. And of course, we've got the other fringe parties such as GLAD and Propel, is it?
Propel. Ní Mac a voice Propel, yeah.
Well, again, they're supported by the Yes Cymru members, the Nationalists. They want independence. Abolish is the only party that actually want to get in there. We want to get representatives elected in order to lose our own jobs because we feel so strongly about what we're doing. And I think as well, we've got to remember we cannot be complacent. 40 to 50% turnout for the Welsh Assembly elections. We need more. There's going to be people at home that think, oh, I'm not going to bother voting, Labour are just going to get in again. No, if you feel really strongly about that, on May the 6th, all being well, unless it's delayed, get up, get to that polling station and show people your strength of feeling. Let's show them actually what we all feel and how strongly we feel that the Welsh Assembly Senedd needs to be abolished. So get out there, don't take it for granted. Don't just assume that nobody's going to get in from, get out there and vote. That is my key point, I think, really, I need to make.
That's brilliant, Claire. Well, listen, thanks for coming on, and you've made your point very clear, and I've got nothing but admiration for you. Anybody that gets involved in politics and takes the rough with the smooth, a lot more rough than smooth, as you know, folks, I've got the utmost admiration for. And, and I've got to know you and Ray as well. And you're a wonderful, wonderful couple. And I'm looking forward to working with you and campaigning with you. And I'm hopeful that I'm got a crystal ball here, but I'm speaking to those watching the show tonight on Rich Politics. If you live in Wales, listen, we're the party to vote for. Make sure you do to support us, because we're the only ones that are anti-establishment, really. The rest of the parties want to keep their jobs. We're trying to get ourselves in there so we can get ourselves out of there. Just imagine that. It's been done before. It can happen again. We saw it with the European Union and the Brexit Party MEPs. It's possible, and that's what we're trying to do. So make sure you check us out on the links that are going to be accompanying the video here, all the W's, abolishwelsassembly.co.uk, and get in touch with Claire. Send us a message. We really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on tonight, Claire. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been great fun.
And to all of my followers and friends and family and everybody else, don't forget we're back on Wednesday night. Oh, Sunday Night Live. We've got a Sunday Night Live, actually. We're going to be discussing the papers. We're going to do a Sunday Night Live discussing the papers, what's happened through the week. And then we're back next week. I've got a Conservative MP on next week. So that should be interesting. We're going to talk about a whole range of things about vaccination rollout, over 15 million. Boris Johnson's doing an extraordinary job, and we're going to look at some of that as well. So make sure you tune in then as well. But I'll catch you the same time, same place. You know the score on Rich Politics next week. Take care now.